Hello, my name is Medina Todson. I'm the Senior Information and Content Officer at Bliss, and I'm here today talking with Chelsi, who will introduce herself shortly about family integrated care and how that's impacted her neonatal journey. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Chelsi. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago originally, and my miracle baby's name is Jamali Cross.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being here with me today.
You're welcome.
We're going to talk a bit about family integrated care and how this impacted your neonatal journey. And we're also going to talk a bit about advocacy and how you spoke up for Jamali, your miracle baby. So, if you'd like to start by telling me a bit about your neonatal experience, and then I'll explain what FICare, family integrated care, is, and then we can talk a bit more.
Okay, well, I have a certain medical issue called fibroid. So I was told that I can't have kids because of it. So I don't know if that was the cause of bringing him so early, but you will have your bags packed, expecting your baby. So you can go to the hospital, you will have his needs and stuff in that bag. When Jamali came, I did not have a backpack. It happened unexpectedly at 7 months, literally 32 weeks and 6 or 4 days to be exact. So it was like a rush. It was like I was on my own. Plus, I had him in my room on my bed. So it was the paramedics had to actually help me from there to the hospital when he was already born. So it's from there now they had revived him back and stuff because he was having problems breathing. And we were put onto the neonatal ward in question. So he was in the incubator.
That sounds really dramatic, especially, we do hear from a lot of families who weren't expecting to have a premature baby that it's such a shock because it's not necessarily something that you knew anything about or could prepare for. And then, especially to be by yourself when it happened.
That's right. I was alone.
Yeah. Um, well, we have Jamali now, and he is an amazing miracle. So
Yes,
we're grateful for
thank
that.
God.
So, I'm going to talk about family integrated care, which is a model of care for babies born premature or sick, which promotes a culture of partnership and collaboration between parents and healthcare professionals working on neonatal units. Simply put, that means parents and healthcare professionals working together to care for babies on the neonatal unit. I want to know if you knew about family integrated care when you were on the neonatal unit with Jamali, whether anyone ever mentioned it to you.
No, I'm not aware of it only now when you mention it. I'm not aware of family integrated care.
And I think when we talked earlier, you mentioned that although you didn't know what family integrated care was by name, there were lots of things that happened on the unit that now
Yes.
looking back, you can say were that.
Well, they had me feed him. So I was trying to feed from the boobs and from the bottle as well, from the formula they gave. And they were advising me to to express my milk from my boobs to the machine in the bottle. And they say, well, that will be first preference to give the baby. They also advised that I put him skin to skin on my body, which I enjoyed very much. And well, they had him naked because he was already warm from that incubator. So, from that warmth to this warmth on my chest, it was harmless to the baby. Yes, like little things like that was implemented. I was aware of it because they had me done it. But like that word, like the family integrated care, nobody didn't really say, well, it was
Mm,
that. But I
yeah,
experienced it by, yes, you know,
yeah,
physically, I experienced it there.
yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the first time you had skin to skin with Jamali? Do you remember that?
Yes, I was trying to get him to open his eyes. So I had him on my chest, and I've seen him peeping, and that was my thrill, was to see him open his eyes. And oh my gosh, he felt so warm. He felt like this little human. Oh my God, I couldn't. It was amazing. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed it so much.
And how early was Jamali born?
32 weeks, 4 days, or something like that. Either 4 or 6 days.
And was he very small, or was he?
He was like, uh, he wasn't so small, but I saw smaller there
Mm,
because a lot of babies there was young, smaller in size, and
hmm
but he wasn't like a full term baby, like big.
hmm
He was
Yeah.
like 5 pounds.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and when you had skin to skin with him for the first time, were you nervous about him being out of the incubator, and were you nervous about that?
Yes, I was. I was even nervous trying to change his nappy because
Mm,
of how he was in that incubator there. I was feeling like something would go wrong. They had this attached, they had that attached. Even when he's coming on my chest, he have to come with his cord. So you have to be very careful how you pass the cord to come out where I was sitting. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I had to have a lot of patience with the holding and feeding of the baby and cleaning of his nappy. I had to have a lot of patience because you couldn't just go there and hurry because of the cord that was attached to him. Yeah.
yeah. And apart from being nervous about all of those aspects of it, the medical aspects of it, was there anything else that made it difficult for you to do things like change his nappy or have skin to skin or feed him?
The only thing difficult for me is that I was alone and that um I would have rather been home because if I made him full term, I would have been able to go home. I would have felt more comfortable doing it at home than into the hospital. But with the hospital, I was able to learn a lot because they had class as well. Other parents there in the class with you. I like it was a give and take for me. 1 minute I feeling like I should have been home to do the nappy changing and everything. And then the next minute I was like glad that I was around people because of being alone. Yeah, so I given and taken with that part. Yeah,
Yeah, I understand that. That makes sense.
yeah.
Um, were there, apart from the classes, which, if you could tell me a little bit more about them, were they specifically for things like changing your nappies and things
Not
like
the
that?
nappies part because they would have expected you to know how to change nappies. But they were like telling you what type of blankets you can use, the ones with the holes. They were telling you how you can hold the baby for them not to choke or stifle. They were literally telling you, okay, no hats because they was explaining that the hats will cause heat and these things. They were advising you to keep him in his cot. They were advising ways how to feed, positions how to hold the bottle and stuff. Yeah, so that class, there were mothers and there were fathers as well, because in some of their cases, they would have fathers to help the mothers. So this mother here would have her husband. She would be there with baby, so she would send husband to go to class. It was like that. So everyone was there, and the lady was explaining everything to us, like an overall as to how to keep babies safe, like from harm. Because
Mm,
they was talking about the SIDS, I think is SIDS.
SIDS.
Yes, the babies can just easily just go away by a
Mm,
simple, you know, a simple mistake can just you can lose a baby. So they were very specific with the blankets, especially. Yes, they were like, no, don't use this blanket. These blankets must have holes. So in case of that, they can still breathe through these holes. Yeah, so I enjoyed those classes. They even gave you booklets as well that I took to carry home.
that's really good. Um, So, what were the things apart from the classes that healthcare professionals did that made you feel confident when you were doing things like feeding?
Mm, they will keep checking. They keep checking. So while I feed him with butter, they would check in. Did you try to make him latch on your boob? Did you try him? And they were just reminding you of as you go along because remember in that stage you now make a baby, your memory have functioning so nice. So they will come in every time and they were like, right, try and make him latch. That's important that he latch instead of you having to express all this time. So the remembering to latch, they were really, really behind me for that because they say once he's latching properly, then I'll get to go home, you know?
Yeah,
So they were
yeah,
behind me for that. Yeah,
yeah. So supportive in that way. Yeah,
yeah.
that's really good. That's really, really good. Um, and can we talk a little bit about you being here alone and what made that difficult for you um, in terms of being on the unit and being there for Jamali?
Well, I mean, anybody wouldn't want to be alone, but because of my circumstances, I had no choice. And then
Mm,
didn't know that I was pregnant until like 4 months. It was scary. So nobody can come to my aid in that short space of time and so forth and so forth. And I just hold on to God, you know, and He was with me all the way, but it's not easy because when you're watching other people with help, with companionship, with everything, it that alone does have you down. That alone by just watching somebody else who in the same position like you, but they have support. That will bother you. And I just try to keep my composure. I just try to keep up for my little one because it was not easy at all. And I don't know. But that situation is because of the urgency for me being here. I had to be here because of urgency. And all that is what made me hold on because I know it was for a reason that I am here. And so I just said, thank God that I reached this far. He's a year and a 1 month now. And I just glad that I reached this far because it was not an easy journey. Because of my situation and because of being alone and because of everything that happened, it was just like a whole big ball.
mm, yeah,
I'm holding this ball with one hand, you know? So, yes,
yeah,
it's only God. It's only God. God see me through this.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, I'd want to like acknowledge that it was really hard, but that you did it and continue to do it, which is amazing. You know, you have done that and you've done that for Jamali.
Yeah. Jamali
Yeah.
was also born, well, with the premature, the pipe, that particular pipe there that goes to the lung, that wasn't formed properly. And due to that, it worsened one of his lungs. But we didn't see it one time. So while they were more focused on me going home, they test because he was missing a certain pellucidum in the brain as well. And because of that, they had to take certain tests like the eye test because she said more or less it might be sight. So like she took certain tests. So I felt that the missing pellucidum had them throw off as to what was happening to his breathing. But when he now came out, when he was now born, I was realizing that the baby was having problems to breathe. And when the paramedic was coming to assist me with the cutting of the cord and stuff, I was like, no, 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 no. Watch he. He is not breathing properly. So, he didn't study me too much after I said that. He was more focused on Jamali and they realized that he was really having problems breathing. But when they do the brain test, they saw that this polyethylene is missing. So it just took them off completely of the windpipe situation that we found out 2 months after. Yes, so this was, I can't say that they were neglecting, because while they saw that was missing in his brain, they decided to do certain tests to see, well, okay, what is this piece of brain missing? What is going to do to the baby? Did he lose his sight because of it or what? But when they take the test, the sight was good. And we were like monitoring here now what it could be later down in his life. Yes. So they even went on to say, because I got worried, they even went on to say, excuse me, mommy, don't be worried. There are people that kids are born full term. We don't take the brain test. And we don't know that they are missing this placenum. So they go on living normal lives. But because your baby was born premature, we have to take this brain test. And that's how we saw it. So she was like, okay, you don't have to worry, because a lot of normal full-term babies probably is missing that same stuff and they are normal. So I started relaxing myself. I started stop studying about what could be happening to my son. He's missing piece of brain tissue. What is this? So I stopped worrying. But I cannot forget that the windpipe situation was just building up and worsening as we go along. We were not knowing what was taking place here in the baby until like a few weeks after.
So when you left the hospital and you were still worried about his breathing and about
Hmm.
his lung function, um, what happened? How did you manage to make yourself heard by the healthcare
Okay.
professionals?
So well, I am watching how he's breathing. He's breathing literally with his chest coming up like this there. So I was going to doctors and they were saying it's normal. But a friend will see him and say, no, that's not normal. And, I used to be worried. So I will go back to the hospital again. They will say, no, that is normal. And I was so confused. So I changed the GP that I was registered with. So I decided to go to a particular GP. And I have to call his name. You see, Dr. George Varghese. I have to call his name. Dr. George Varghese was the doctor that they put me to when I changed the GP. So the first check was with that doctor. And as he saw my son, he started typing. Now, I don't know what he was typing, but he was looking like something is wrong. So I was there, I was confused. But I was expecting something is to do with his breathing. He said, you have to go to the hospital immediately because this baby is not breathing properly. He needs help immediately, right? So I took him with the letter and I followed the instructions from Dr. George Bakis to go and get this head. Now, mind you, when he saw my baby, so compared to other people who I carried him to check before, total difference. Like he knows his job, like he see through the baby and he know that something is wrong. And I thank God for this man. I thank God for changing GP and making me like join this new GP. All that was for a reason. I thanking God still for that. And when I went to the hospital, they were like on the same route as to do the same thing, put on the monitor to see the heart. And so I was like, excuse me, no, that is not what he needs. That is not what he needs. You need to check inside of him. I have fed up went for checks and they are doing this and they are saying it's normal. No, move these things off of him. He needs help. Read the paper that the doctor is stating here. You need to take something and check inside this child. And I started being loud. I was like, they were trying to figure out, like, is this lady mad? No, it's not that I was mad. It was like, I'm going places and they are saying the same thing over and over and over and over. And they are not helping this baby. And it's clear that he needs help. So to calm me, they got a doctor to come with me to chat with me. So I'm explaining to her it's about more than 5 times I've been visiting other places, asking for help. I even changed GP because of that situation. And this GP is saying, okay, with this letter, help is needed. So could you do some x-ray or some type of thing so that they can see proper? She came back and she said, Mommy, you know you was right. So she said something is wrong with his lung. She said he is diagnosed with lobar congenital overinflation. That's where his left lung is overinflated, like to the capacity, like if you're blowing a balloon and this balloon has too much air and this balloon just looks like it wants to pop. This is the condition of the baby's lung. She said you were right. And this is what. So, boy, I'm so glad that it was like a reflex. I had to open my mouth. I had to say it because he couldn't say it. So I had to say it. And I thank God I said it because he was hanging on a thread.
Mm. Yeah, it's amazing. And, you know, you are his mother and you do know him best. And you did know that
Yep.
there was something wrong, something more. And because you advocated and because you pushed, you know, even though I'm sure it wasn't comfortable to push and to keep saying and to go back, you did it and they found that there was something wrong and now he has help that he needed. I think it's really important for other parents who see this to know that they can advocate for their babies. And I wonder if you have any advice for other parents in a similar situation to help them feel like they can be empowered.
Yes, exactly. Because the parents, you as a parent, you know how much runs you had made with your baby. You is the one that know. They who you now going to, they don't know how much times you have run around for this one reason. You have to be your child's mouthpiece. You have to open your mouth. If you don't open your mouth, they would just think that, okay, it's probably like one of the same, the others, like the others. No, you have to open your mouth for your child. Your child cannot open your mouth for himself or for herself. You have to speak up for your child. Have to. It will save their life. Because I literally saved my son's life by opening up. A little bit of gain, they would have sent me back home and say, that's normal. Just monitor him. They even told me to rub vapor rub. Where they are seeing this big chest is going like this, they are telling me to rub vapor rub. So you have to open your mouth, especially if you are seeing something is wrong in the medical field. Open up, open up. Once you are not using obscene language, you will be heard. They will
Mm,
hear you.
yeah, that's so important. And I wonder if you have advice for other parents who might be alone for whatever reason,
Of course,
how they can support
God,
themselves.
God, just pray, talk to God. When you think and you have nobody, you can just talk to yourself, but it's God you're talking to, God hearing. You know, that is your company. I feel I don't think I had this was the best company I had. Being alone made me know God more. You know? Yeah. That made me know this man more and he kept me true. It was like a boat. You know, you're on the sea and the sea was rough. So you're alone in this boat and this sea is so rough. And then boom, the sea just calm. You on this boat now making you feel you on a vacation. You know, yes, he just relax everything. So always count on God. You know, he will see it through.
Were there other people who supported you, like other organizations that helped you
Okay.
to get through that time?
Well, my family in the UK is the Happy Baby Farm community. That was the baby group that the hospital advised me to go to whilst having my baby. So whilst in pregnancy, I was going a group with other mothers like me. There are mothers who were pregnant. There were mothers that had babies already. And everybody who used to come together on a Monday, you know, we group up there, we learn things, we do little knitting, drawing, coloring, like painting wise. Yeah, we just come together, and that is where I met a few of my friends through that puppy baby community. And through my pregnancy, they helped me a lot. Through my situation with Jamali's health 2 months after, I never saw anyone but them. They came. Miss Laura used to call every evening at 5 because I used to have to go to the hospital every day I would have been there, but I would have left to go home, cook a meal, and come back because they would provide you with sleep, but they would not provide you with a meal. So you would always have to organize yourself that way. So I would go get food cooked and come back. Miss Laura, she called every 5 o'clock as if she was my mom, as if she was my grandmom. I am so thankful for her. I am so thankful for the Happy Baby community. They are my family here in the UK. They are all that I know. They treated me with love, and this aloneness, when it's coming to them, I was not alone. When Miss Laura had time, she would come. Sometimes she would come with Miss Millie. And I used to feel so good when I see her there, like they were the best. They were the best. Yes, I enjoyed that. So thank
It's really
God for the
good.
Happy Baby community. Thank God for them.
It's really good that you had support and people that were there for you, and
Yeah,
that through that you met other people, other women who were in the same situation or similar
yeah,
situations that you could build a relationship with, and know
yeah,
that having people who understand your situation is really important for no matter what you're going through.
yeah.
I'd like to talk a little bit more about what things healthcare professionals, when you were on the unit, could have done to support you. If there are things that you can think of that would have made it better for you, whether there were things that they could have done.
Hmm, what they could have been done. Um, they did the best that they could because it was a journey that I had nothing, I didn't know anything about. Because my daughter will be 21 years next year. I had a long time before I made another baby. So I wasn't knowing anything. And with them, I was able to know this and I was able to know that. So I can't come and say that they could have done this and they could have done this better. I have to say thanks for the support that they give in the hospital because for a mother that knows nothing about babies at that point in time, I had a lot of knowledge as to how to cope with my newborn baby in his premature state. And although they did not pick up on this part of his um, issue, I can't be upset because they picked up on the missing part of his brain. So the only thing could say is that they were focused on that rather than, okay, let's see what else is
Mm,
going on in this baby. Which, if you ask me, that was the only problem. But I would
yeah.
live with that because they did the best that they could with
Mm,
me and my baby. And I am grateful. I am grateful for that. And it was not too late when we pick up on it. Everything had was to just happen in a certain way. I had to leave that GP, register with this new GP in order for things to be done. I had to actually open up a little bit in my mouth in the hospital for they to actually take an X-ray of this baby, and because of the things that I did, everything just fall in place the correct way and everything was just perfect. So I have to say, um, the hospitals did what they could. They did what they could, and I am grateful. You know, they saw
yeah.
the problem with the X-ray. They sent me straight with we got a what it is called it transfer. They transfer us to the Royal Brompton Hospital immediately, and the Royal Brompton Hospital sent the ambulance for us. Everything just happened perfectly and in time for everything to work out. So I cannot bash the
Mm,
hospital. I have to say
yeah.
thank you thank you, for listening, because they could have said, no, this lady mad, she's loud, and they could have left me there. But
Mm,
they sent someone to hear me, and she heard, and everything was perfectly done. So I say,
yeah.
thank you, Father. I thank you, Father, for this. I am grateful. I am grateful. I
And
am grateful.
so I guess they really also empowered you to be a new mother again and
Yeah,
to look after a premature baby. They
yeah,
gave you that kind of skills and support to help you through that time.
yes. Don't talk about follow-ups. They always have follow-ups, appointments. They always want to know everything. They dig deep. They even want to see if he's clapping. They're watching to see how he's crying. I just love how they take care of their kids here in the UK. I am so
Mm,
grateful.
it's really good. It's really good that despite it being a really challenging time and despite it being something that you weren't expecting, that good came of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I guess going back to your time on the unit, um, with looking after Jamali as well as and in partnership with the staff. So we've talked about nappy changes and we've talked about skin to skin, for example. What we haven't talked about is ward rounds when they come round and talk to you about what's going on with your baby. How did you find that experience?
Well, I see it is unnecessary thing to do because things can change with time. So they pass in the morning time and a little issue can take place in like 2 hours time. So it's good that they come back on the evenings. And I I appreciate that ward rounds that doctors do. It is important. And sometimes you get a doctor that has more knowledge here now, and then in the evening you will get a doctor passing with a little more knowledge than this one. And this doctor here now will say okay and make a different judgment, and it is important. The wardrooms is very important. Yes, I experienced wardrooms. Yes, they came by. And every time they came by, it was always still certain parts they didn't see because it wasn't tested. What they knew of, like with the color of the eye, like with the jaundice, they
Mm,
would have known to put him in the light. And by the evening time ward rounds, when they check, they say, okay, this baby don't need this anymore. That light that he would have gotten already would have worked.
mm,
So they now take it off because if it didn't have a ward rounds in the evening, he wouldn't have needed from evening and he would have still had the light on him till the next day.
mm,
For the morning wardrooms now to now say, well, okay, take him off the light. So he was exposed to extra light. The evening wardrooms cut that down. They say, okay,
mm.
now he can come off this light. So that is how important the wardrooms is in the
Yeah.
hospital. And they need to keep it up. And it helps a lot. It helps a lot. It probably saves a lot of lives as well. So
Mm,
very
yeah.
appreciative of the wardrobe. Thanks to the doctors and these people. Yes, grateful
S- So you were with Jamali every day for those 2 weeks. And did you
every day.
stay there or did you go home to sleep and then come back in the morning?
Stayed there.
You
I
stayed
was
there.
provided bed.
Okay, that's really
Yeah,
good. Yeah, so that's really lucky that you had
I
accommodation
would just go
because
home
obviously,
to cook.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So they didn't provide you with food even though you were trying to breastfeed.
Okay, breastfeeding. Yes, but sometimes you don't like what come.
Yeah.
Yes, you want to go home and cook something, a nice pilau. What you will want to eat, yes, I would run home and get that done and come back. But in the specialist hospital, I was not breastfeeding at that time. That was like 2 months after. And I had to provide food. So they were providing you with a place to sleep, but they was not providing food. They were only providing food for breastfeeding mothers. So I
Yes.
used to
Okay.
go get my food cooked, come
Mm,
back. It also had a kitchen there in case I wanted to go to the grocery, get stuff to cook, and come back there to cook. I could have done that as well.
Mm. Yeah. And when you were on the neonatal unit for those 2 weeks, where were you living at the time?
I was living in Harrow.
Okay. And what kind of accommodation was it?
It was a hotel where I have
Mm.
my apartment where I can cook. There is my toilet and bath in there as well.
Mhm.
Space for clothing and the bedroom area. It was like a
Okay.
small studio apartment.
Okay. Great. That's really
Yeah.
good.
He
So you
was
had
born in
access
there.
to.
He was born
Mm.
in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you had access to things like cooking stuff and a fridge and things like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
You would
that's
have
really
your
good.
small kitchen there in that said
Hmm.
room.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. You've been through a lot and you've come out of it. And I think it's amazing that you um, have stayed so positive and unjaded by your experience. I think
If
that's like a
wasn't,
real.
if was not for God, I could never be like this.
Mm,
It's God. If it didn't have a God, it might have been. You might have seen my
mm,
hair stick out like this.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to share about your journey or anything else that was difficult that you managed to overcome or anything you'd like to share with other parents who are either in a similar situation or parents who have a premature or sick baby? Anything you'd like to share with them?
The honest, well, I have to say to parents when their baby is sick, pray. It have no other advice I can give other than to seek God first, right? And there is something else I wanted to share when Jamali had his surgery done.
Mm,
And so the surgery was a Friday. And this Sunday, when I came down from my room, because I would leave his room like 11 p.m. in the night, and I will go upstairs to my room. But like 4:30, like, firstly, I could not have sleep because my baby is sick downstairs. But the
mm,
little rest that I got, I would pop up like 4:35. I will go back down. And when I went back down 2 days after the surgery, they were saying that my baby's oxygen went as far as 50 or something like that. And I was just so worried. And they say, yes, we were just here. And after 3 this morning, I just see his thing was going down. And now, while I was there, the doctor already told me. So I am sitting there now. I am seeing it happening in my eye that his oxygen is going down and down, and his breathing is going away. Like the numbers for the breathe on the breathing monitor, that going down. It reached 30 and going down. It reached to zero. My son had stopped breathing, and I was there. I saw a lot of them came to the room, and I saw an African lady. She held my baby up, and she had him like this in her, shaking him like a doll and pressing the middle of his chest. Now, at that point, I was praying. I was asking God to keep Jamali with me. Keep him with me. I prayed, I prayed, I prayed. I did not stop calling God's name that morning. And after 4 minutes of cardiac arrest, my 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 baby was saved. That that nurse, that doctor that picked him up and did that, I believe that God worked through her and saved my baby's life. So the only advice I can give to mothers and fathers, God first.
mm.
God first. Nothing else. You're sure to get help.
Thank you so much, Chelsea.
You're welcome.